So, being disingenuous, more leftist tactics coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Conversations Logic Reason. As always, I'm going to say thank y'all for joining me today. So I have another example of a leftist tactic that they use, being disingenuous. Again, this is just another one of those tactics that they have to rely on because they can't rely on facts. They can never rely on facts to prove their argument because very rarely, if ever, do facts support their argument. So they have to rely on these tricks in order to prove their point, in which they're all too willing to do because they value their narrative more than they value the truth. So what is being disingenuous? Well, in order to understand, you have to know what disingenuous means. Now, it just simply means to not, for a person to not be honest, or pretend to not have knowing information about a subject matter that they actually do, or they act as if they don't know about something, but they actually do know about something. Now, why would the left resort to this tactic? Why would they pretend to not know something or to be ignorant of the subject? If it means that answering a question will destroy or hurt their narrative, then they will lie about knowing something. And this tactic is a tactic that's used a lot more often than you believe. Again, sometimes it's kind of hard to tell if they're doing it because you don't really know what a person knows. But if you pay attention to a person, you let them speak and you start analyzing what they say and let them talk and talk, and the more they talk, you can start to filter out and understand if they're lying to you or if they're being disingenuous about information. But it's really letting them talk and providing a rope to hang themselves with. Now, a perfect example of this, I remember Michael Moore, he put out the documentary Sicko. And I think the documentary came out in like 2006, 2007-ish, around that time. Yeah, I believe it was 2000, around that time, the movie Sicko came out. And he was doing interviews, which people generally do when it's a high-profile movie or documentary. And I can't remember who, but him and his host were going back and forth. Like I said, I can't remember who this host was. And, Michael Moore was insisting that government is better at running healthcare, that government is better at just running things than the private sector. And the hosts were like, no, you're wrong, because private sector is better, is more efficient, and has always been that way. And I believe Michael Moore asked him for an example, and he said, well, just look at the phone that you're holding. Now, Michael Moore's response, and I guarantee you, some of y'all remember this, may have seen this video, but his response was, are you kidding? I can't get reception in this building. So he was being completely disingenuous because he knew the point that the man was making, and if he would have agreed with him on it, which is true, then his point would have been hurt. So he deflected to his reception, even though the argument was never about the reception. That was not the argument, how good the reception was at the time. And we talking about in 2007. That was back when the first iPhone came out. And if we just look at smartphones, if we look at how far smartphones have come, the smartphones today, the newest smartphones today are light years ahead of the very first iPhone that came out in 2007. And that's the private sector, not the business. So Michael Moore knew that answering that question, he was going to support the argument of the host. So he deflected by being disingenuous to bring up reception. And again, how much better was reception today? Because constant improvement, because of private sector. If trust me, if the government was involved in cell phones and they were solely responsible for producing cell phones, we'd be lucky to have a flip phone now. That's how inefficient and wasteful government is. And we have numerous examples of this. So Michael Moore knew exactly the point that this host was making. Again, I can't remember who the host was, but he was clearly conservative and against this point where government needs to run healthcare. But like I said, the left will do this all the time. They do it all the time because they value their narrative over the truth. They don't care about the truth. They care about their narrative and pushing their agenda. So I can probably look up numerous examples, and I've experienced this personally myself, where people will just flat out lie, especially black people when it comes down to race. Or they will lie like every damn dog on the planet to preserve that race narrative that doesn't exist. And this is why, despite the fact that everybody keep crying about racism, nobody ever tells you how racism is stopping them. They can't tell you because it's not, so they have to preserve it. They've been so brainwashed with this narrative that they want to maintain it and preserve it, and they will do it at all costs, even if it means lying, even if it means being disingenuous, pretend like you don't know something. But anyway, the reason why I bring up all these leftist tactics, so that if you run into them, you will know. And again, it's not always easy to tell if a person is being disingenuous to you, but if you let them talk and you listen to the knowledge that they have, you can start to know, okay, now you're lying to me because you already proved you had knowledge on the subject. But anyway, beware of these leftists being disingenuous. And as always, y'all, until next time.